Final ending of The Soulmate. Part 1 down below. I took the weekend off. I usually work weekends. I don't know where to begin, so I'll just start typing and see where it takes me. The kids and I spent the weekend together. I learned a lot about them that I didn't know also. Was actually an eye-opener to be a single dad with 2 little people. I felt like I hadn't really known them until now, which kind of made me feel like I had been working too much. She stayed at her mom's house again, knowing I was here. Wednesday she came home while the kids were in school. She looked like hell and I could tell she had been crying. She asked me why I didn't care to even try to make it all work out, and why I wouldn't fight for her. The process server caught her at her mom's house that morning. I didn't know until she showed up, and until I checked my emails later after she left. I told her why would I fight for someone who let their fantasies take control of their life, and betray me ultimately? She apologized again and again, so I played on it, telling her I wanted answers. She said the guy she's been seeing was the manager of our local Safeway, and I knew that I had seen him before recollecting on it. I've seen him there before. She used to ask me to go to the grocery store with her all the time, and I would. Then, she stopped asking, and would start getting dolled up to go. She would put her hair down, and makeup on, wear tight clothes, and perfume, and just thought she wanted to feel better about herself. It seemed to make sense at the time. Then she would go every Friday morning to get the kids a certain lunch for school, since Fridays are a short day, always getting fixed up Friday mornings. I went to the store with her once and had actually witnessed a little flirtatious exchange of smiles back and forth between them. Again, naive I was. I haven't processed all these thoughts until now, as they hit me like rewinding a movie. Turns out, this guy does odd jobs also around town as a handyman, and is in several people's houses, and often. Apparently my STBX had asked him to take a look at something while I was out of town, and that's when it started. She initiated the whole thing. Looking back on this now, and if someone can help me understand, please do. During our whole relationship, she has always made eye contact and smiles with men. Everywhere we went, she would notice only the men in any room, and they would also notice her, noticing them, with total lack of respect towards me even being there. Have I been a tool this whole time? Or did I just put too much trust in someone that didn't deserve it? Was she fickle? Either way, I just want answers. I believe I'll feel better knowing. She seems to want to have her cake and eat it too. She's losing a life that I don't think she actually wants to live, but rather run home to it when she feels like being a wife and mom. Makes me sad to think she'll be like this for any length of time. I mean, what age do people grow out of this? Is this a midlife crisis for her? Anyway, there's more. I'll post as it comes to me. Feeling like I typed myself into more emotional dysfunction here lol. To all of you who are concerned and have helped me understand, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. To those of you who have given me advice and input, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have a good day. Hey, it's Friday. So many questions now, it's hard to answer all of them. The first conversation I had with her in person, I just wanted all the answers that were driving me mad. After I received the answers that I damn near already knew to be true and what I thought, I actually felt better. Maybe knowing that I wasn't completely losing my crap and that I still have some intuition left. Someone mentioned me mopping the floor with the OM damn straight. And that's why I haven't, because I'll hurt him. Bad. Found out where he works, who he is, how it all happened. And turns out he's not married. I was hoping he was. I wanted so badly to go tell his wife what I stumbled upon. Now I think about it, and it's one less person harmed in all this mess. Today is a good day for me. I'm feeling some confidence rebuilding going on, and some normalcy starting to come around. Still get choked up, and I've decided that the radio is just not good right now. I'm back to work, in fact working today, and it does feel kind of good. I'm in direct correspondence with my attorney, and we are working on assets, and what will be determined, when, how, all that. My ex is back at the house, and it's been hard to live so awkwardly for the last few days. The run-ins in the hallway and on the stairs, the meeting in the kitchen at the same time, those types of things. Right now, it appears to be limbo until we get some hearings and court dates. The state is forcing us to mediation, which I believe is a requirement, because I said hell no, and my attorney said, you have to. So, we'll see how that goes. A lot of silence from the other side. Her parents, whom I love dearly, are very quiet. They even talk to me in a lower tone, calm and mellow. I've ran the thought that either they want to remain calm, cool, and collected, for obvious reasons, or they are just feeling the burden of her mistakes. The kids seem quiet and disturbed, as if they've realized something. The love bomb initiative has definitely begun, and with harsh rejection from me. I could see, in a normal relationship, a rejection so harsh, causing someone to be angry, but she takes it with a grain of salt. I'm still a man, and it's hard to refuse. But still, the memory remains. I like Metallica. I have a meeting with my attorney this coming Monday. Things tend to move very slow in a small town. As for me, I'm feeling more like myself, slowly becoming me again. Never to be whole again, but this is a start. Whether I was there or not, would the house be affected in final court hearings? I decided to go back to the house for 2 reasons. 1, no one else was there. And 2, the hotels get expensive. A secret third reason was to make the ex feel uncomfortable, keep the OM away from my kids. The kids, they are without a doubt. Me, I never suspected anything in prior years, and I know that doesn't mean that things would not have happened back then. But we used to be madly in love, had a strong bond, strength in the family. It was there. The kids belong to me. I'm not against DNA or even an at-home paternity test, so don't get me wrong. I just know the resemblance and traits are all mine. At this point, I'm hoping Safeway Steve does offer some of his space, at least just to get her out of the house for a day, 2 days, forever. I just don't want my kids over there. It's a strange place for them. Their things are here. Their people are here. This is their home. She, however, seems to be on her best behavior, cooking and baking, letting it be known that she's home, like she's there, in everyone's presence. She's not giving me any signs of her wanting to go jam out with her clam out and party with Safeway Steve. She doesn't know it, but I can hear her phone vibrate through the walls every time she gets a text message. It goes off all hours of the night and day. She must have her normal notifications set to sound and messages set to vibrate. The toughest part of this for me is going to work and being miles away from everyone and everything. When I'm traveling back home and getting closer, it feels different now. Like whatever it was that I missed, I have to investigate and get up to speed on things. I'm starting to feel nervous and anxious as I approach my town. Now when I get home and the house is empty, I start wondering where everyone is. The kids are either in school or at grandma's, but Need to Wonder is still there. Meeting with the attorney Monday, hoping she'll relax me with good news. I acted fast and grabbed the attorney in town. From what I understand now is that she'll have to go 60 miles away to get one. Maybe Safeway Steve can get her a job there. I shop at the mom and pop store anyway. I don't feel like complicating things any further. Seems like she's trying to be mom of the year. She has begged me to think about us and what we could be. Also, she's acting like nothing has happened. She asked me if I was horny the other day and sat next to me. I got up and went to my new bedroom. She constantly asks if I'm hungry and if there's anything I need. It's getting old saying nope, I'm good. I think the personality disorders may be at play here. I don't think the DNA test is necessary. Although, like I've said before, I'm not against it, and I don't take defensive to someone suggesting it. I would actually do it, knowing what I know now, if my ex were to be pregnant last month for instance. My comment, what you could be, a cuckold, fist fights with her boyfriends, off to the doctor after she gives you the clap, raising another man's child, an early grave. These are some of things you could be with her. Hopefully things are going well for OP, but suspect bad things, like his STBX filing DV charge. Story 2. I'm 31, husband is 41. I work full-time and we have 3 kids, and I'm also currently 23 weeks pregnant. We've been married 11 years, almost 12. Since the very beginning of our relationship, he has understood that I'm a very introverted person and that I need my space at the end of the day to recharge after a day of dealing with people and socializing. I guess he has been under the impression that this is something that he can change about me by forcing me into uncomfortable situation, because he's never really been respectful of my feelings on this particular issue. However, my feelings remain the same. I'm just as uncomfortable having guests stay here, being a house guest as I've always been, despite the times my husband had pushed me into those situations. For many years, before we had kids, if he wanted guests to stay with us or if we were the guests and were offered to stay with the people we were visiting, I obliged to make him happy, but I was very anxious and uncomfortable the whole time. I come from a family where if family visits, they stay at a hotel when it's time to wind down for the night. Even when my own parents visited us for our wedding, they stayed at a hotel. I'm the same way. I am much more comfortable at a hotel. Now that we have kids and I work full-time, it's even more important that I get time to be myself and relax at the end of a stressful day. Home is my safe place, and with guests in the house, I feel I can't fully recharge or be myself. I used to hide in the bedroom when I was forced in these situations, but I'm not willing to do that anymore. I deserve to feel comfortable in my own home. With that being said, over the last few years, I've not been as willing to bend on this issue, but yet my husband still continues to ask if we can have overnight guests. A few weeks ago, his sister was coming to visit, but she ended up postponing it because of the weather. He asked if she could stay here. I told him I'd prefer that she doesn't. It would be uncomfortable for me regardless, but she usually brings a boyfriend when she visits, and we've never even met the current one she's with. I don't feel it's safe to have a stranger staying here when we have kids in the home. I'm sure he's probably a nice guy, but it just makes me uneasy to think of someone sleeping in my house that I've never even met. Anyway, my husband replied with, well, can we at least offer to pay for a hotel for her? I said fine, if it would make him happy. I'd much rather that than to have people staying here. As I said, she ended up not coming because of the weather, but she came this past weekend instead. When my husband told me she was coming, I asked him if she was planning to stay at a hotel or what the arrangements were. He said she had gotten a hotel and had paid for it herself. Then he started getting upset, saying, I don't know why you bring this up, you know it's not a good topic. I thought we weren't going to talk about this anymore. I let it go, but I was confused because he's the one that brought it up in the first place by asking if his sister could stay here, knowing full and well how I feel about those things. I know some of you probably won't understand my position on this. Some of you are probably more like my husband and you enjoy having guests stay with you, but for me, it causes a lot of stress. I don't see how he's really losing anything by enjoying spending all the time with the guests he wants to during the day but letting everyone go their separate ways by night. For him, not having overnight guests just means he won't get to spend every single waking moment with the guests. For me, having overnight guests means me feeling discomfort and anxiousness and hiding in my bedroom for days just to get some alone time. I don't think it's fair for that to be forced upon me. We both live here, and I think if either of us has any objections to people staying here, then people shouldn't stay here. I don't want my husband to try to change my feelings, and he doesn't even have to understand them, just as I don't understand his. I just want him to respect and accept my feelings. I've tried to think of ways to come up with a compromise, and here are my ideas. 1. Neither myself nor my husband can have overnight guests. Guests are welcome to spend time with us during the day, but at the end of the day, everyone will go their separate ways. We may offer to pay for a guest's hotel room if they don't have one already, so long as it's somewhere affordable and for a reasonable amount of time. 2. We can have an overnight guest once or twice a year for no more than 3 to 4 days at a time. If the guests plan to stay longer, they'll have to get a hotel for the remainder of the visit, which we may offer to pay for. If one spouse would be more comfortable staying at a hotel themselves while a guest is staying in the home, she may do so. With option 2, I feel it would give him what he wants, but it would also allow me to have the alone time that is necessary for me. And we wouldn't have to tell anyone I was going to a hotel because of them. We could make up an excuse like that I'm going to stay with a friend for a few days or something. Although something tells me that if my husband had to be here being the sole parent to care for the kids, maintain the house, and also deal with house guests, he might not be so eager to do it. But I'd be willing to try this if he wanted. Also, with this option, if there's any disagreement on who will be staying here, like if a family member wants to bring along a friend or someone we've never met, then we will go back to the option of offering to pay for their hotel instead of offering to let them stay with us. Typically, I'd say we don't have guests more than once or twice a year, and typically not for more than a few days. There was one time when his dad stayed with us and didn't really say when he was planning to leave, and he ended up staying 2 weeks, but I think that was an isolated incident because it hasn't happened in years. I agree that it would look weird if they knew I was going to a hotel, which is why I suggested telling them I had already made plans to stay with a friend or something like that. But still, I can see how this seems a little extreme. I'm just trying to think of ways we could both get what we want. And to be honest, I don't see why it's necessary for family to sleep under the same roof during a visit, making it to where we spend practically every moment together. Waking up together, going to sleep together, eating every meal together, sharing bathrooms, etc. I don't get why anyone would want that when you could visit all day as much as you want, but simply go to a nearby hotel when it's time for bed so everyone can get some space. Again, for many years, I have sucked it up when his family has come to visit, and I went with it to make my husband happy, but I'm just starting to feel like that's not fair anymore. What is he losing by having his family sleep at a nearby hotel, especially when we offer to pay for it? On the other hand, what am I losing by having family stay with us? My privacy, my peace, and my ability to be comfortable in my own home. I know that it doesn't seem like a lot if it's only happening once or twice a year, but with the added responsibilities I have right now, I honestly don't feel I can handle any more added stress. I feel I no longer have the time or energy, mentally or physically, to deal with work, kids, pregnancy, and having to deal with house guests on top of that. I believe he thinks the way my introversion and the way I've grown up is not of the norm, and it's something he can change. Back when I used to give in to allowing house guests whenever he wanted, he used to try to convince me that it wouldn't be bad and that I would probably like it after I got used to it. There were even times when we were visiting others and I wanted to get a hotel to sleep in, but his friends invited us to stay with them, so he dismissed my feelings, telling me it will be fine, you'll probably enjoy it, so we ended up staying. Then at the end of the visit, he'd say, "See, that wasn't as bad as you thought I'd be." And even though the people we were visiting were nice people, I still would have been much more comfortable sleeping in a hotel. At our old house, we lived in town, so there were hotels everywhere. There was one right across from our house even. It wasn't the fanciest, but it was a hotel. Where we live now, we are still within 10 to 15 minutes of decent hotels. So, I don't think that's the issue. As far as I know, guests have never complained about not getting to stay with us, and I certainly have never told them they had to leave anytime they have stayed with us. He had stayed with us for 2 weeks once, and there was a hotel right across the road, but I never once told them they needed to leave, although I was definitely ready to have my house back to myself by that point. Another time, my husband's brother and his girlfriend and her kid wanted to visit. They were coming this way to visit a friend and wanted to stop by our house for a few days on the way. At this time, we lived in a 12 square feet house with only one spare room. The girlfriend messaged me saying they couldn't afford a hotel, asked if they could stay with us, but said she'd understand if I said no because we had just had our oldest son, who was still a baby at the time, and we didn't have much room. I was hesitant about it, but my husband of course said it would be fine, so they ended up sleeping on an air mattress in the spare room and our baby slept in bed with us. I would have been much more comfortable paying for their hotel if they couldn't afford one. That way they still could have visited and we could have had some space. Maybe I shouldn't have given in all those times to my husband because maybe it made him think that there was a chance he could change my introversion or something, but the experience of having overnight guests is just as horrible for me now as it always was. In fact, I think it's even more stressful now that I'm working and we have kids. I'm already on Zoloft, which does help my anxiety in general, but it hasn't made much of a difference when it comes to having house guests. I think he just simply enjoys having guests stay with us just as he enjoys staying with others when we visit them. Why he enjoys it, I have no idea, because for me it's torturous. That's why I don't. It's fair for me to have to continue to suck it up, as others have said, and be miserable for several days at a time just because he simply enjoys houseguests staying over. I think it's a perfectly fair solution to just say no overnight guests for either of us. We can hang out during the day all day long if that's what people want to do, but at night we go to our own beds in our own space so we can have at least an hour or so to ourselves before bed to unwind. And if it makes him happy for us to pay for their hotel, I'm fine with that. If the situation were reversed and he didn't feel comfortable having my family, friends staying with us, I would respect that and would ask them to get a hotel. I wouldn't try to force it on him. I don't think just because someone is family that means we aren't allowed to set any boundaries with them. I think the thing about me staying at a hotel is reasonable as well. If he's so dead set on having people stay with us, we can both get what we want if I stayed at a hotel and he gets to host house guests. He would also be caring for the kids and maintaining the household as well as dealing with guests, so it would probably be pretty tiresome for him, but if that's what he wants, I'd be willing to try it. I do think it would be weird if his family knew I was staying at a hotel because of them, but I could make up an excuse. I wouldn't have to say I was going to a hotel. I plan on bringing up these options to him and seeing which one he would prefer, either option 1 or option 2 that I posted. I'd personally be fine with either one. The thing about pets is another issue. His dad and brother have several large dogs, and anytime they come over, they just let them loose and let them run free all over our yard. A few weeks ago, my husband's brother showed up unannounced at 8 p.m. when I'd just gotten home from working almost a 12-hour shift and we were getting ready to put the kids in bed. My husband ended up letting him come inside, and as soon as the door opens, he lets his dog bust through the house and start galloping around. I had told my husband before I didn't want their dogs in the house because I didn't want to have to worry about them messing with things or maybe accidentally biting one of the kids, so luckily my husband told him that he didn't think the dog was allowed inside, referring to me. Some people in his family just don't seem to have much common courtesy or respect for other people's homes, so that's another issue. There have many times over the years when I obliged my husband when it comes to this issue. I've also stayed at his friends' family's houses when I was more comfortable at a hotel, but he didn't want to do that, so I did what made him happy and stayed. It wasn't until the last few years when things started getting crazier in our lives with kids and work that I've really put my foot down. I could say the same thing about him. He knows I'm highly uncomfortable with people staying at our house, but it's something he enjoys, so instead of thinking about me, he has always tried to invalidate my feelings so he can get what he wants. I'm willing to pay for the guest's hotel, which is more than some people would do. I would never try to force him into being a guest in someone's home or have someone stay at our home that he didn't want there, even if I was an extrovert and enjoyed that type of thing. I don't think I have an inability to be around others. I am around others at work all day and I'm fine with it. But at the end of the day, I look forward to going home where I can be alone and recharge. As someone else here stated, introverts are drained by social interaction, whereas extroverts are fueled by interaction with others. I've tried explaining this to my husband. This is why I say I'm fine if his family wants to spend the day visiting with us, but by the end of it, I'm going to be drained and I'm going to need my own space to recharge. When I don't get that, and especially when it goes on for several days, it feels I never really get the chance to unwind, which is very difficult to deal with. I would not be in the least offended if I went to visit someone and spent all day with them, but then at the end of the day, they offered to pay for a hotel for me to sleep in. In fact, that's what I'd prefer. Well, the thing about his brother coming over unannounced, he claims he didn't know his brother was coming over either. We were both sitting at the table finishing up dinner when we see his brother's dog go running by the window. I was like, "Whose dog is that?" And husband said, "It looks like X's dog." So, he looks outside and there his brother is in the driveway. He went out there and talked to him for a bit, and then next thing I know, there comes the dog busting in the house with my husband and his brother following behind. He stayed for like an hour, so it was almost 9 when we got the kids in bed. I talked to him later and told him his family doesn't need to just be popping in unannounced. He knows we have kids and that they have bedtimes and that I work and I'm pregnant. He knows we have a lot going on, so I was irritated he didn't have the courtesy to at least call first. My husband claims he mainly came over to see our kids and he wasn't going to let him in at first because it was their bedtime, but his brother kept asking if he could see the kids, so he eventually gave in. But he claims that his brother gets the picture that he needs to call, text next time. I guess the root of it is this. To those of you who think I should just continue to suck it up to make my husband happy, here's my question to you. Why do you think that my husband getting exactly 100% what he wants, which would be having guests stay with us for the duration of their visits, because it's something he enjoys, trumps my need to not feel uncomfortable and stressed out in my own home? Some of you are saying it's only a few days, big deal, gets over it. But when you literally need some alone time at the end of the day for the sake of your mental health, not getting it for 3 to 4 days at a time is extremely draining. I would never try to push my H into a scenario where he would be uncomfortable for days and days just for the sake of something that I enjoy doing. I am trying to compromise with him so he can both be happy. I just don't understand the mindset that I should just put my needs on the back burner just so he can 100% have it his way. Imagine any other scenario where a spouse says, I can't handle doing this anymore. It's too stressful and too uncomfortable for me, and the other spouse replies by invalidating their feelings and pushing them into doing it anyway. Is there any other scenario that would be okay? But because it's family, that means we aren't allowed to set any boundaries. After I finished college last year, I started working full-time, and my husband now stays at home to care for the kids, so we have switched roles and he's been doing a great job with our kids. If I didn't think he was more than capable of taking care of them, I wouldn't leave them with him. Believe it or not, I'm actually a better mom to my kids when I'm not overwhelmed and stressed out. If I need alone time in order to get that doesn't make me a bad mom. And if I ever thought that my husband wasn't fully capable of caring for them for a few days, I wouldn't go. I'm more concerned with him wanting to invite his sister's boyfriends to stay over that we've never even met before, knowing we have small children in the house. I would never keep repeatedly asking my husband to put himself in a situation that I know causes him discomfort and stress in our home just because I am comfortable with that particular thing. That's why I have a hard time wrapping my head around why he continues to do it to me. On my mind, as you've said, a husband and wife are one and their homes is theirs. If one or either of them expresses that something causes them discomfort, I think the spouse's top priority should be the other spouse. I would put his comfort over my family's comfort in a heartbeat. When we first got together, I moved 400 miles away from my parents so I could be with him, and it just about killed them. But I didn't want for my husband to have to quit his job that he'd had for 7 years to move to my hometown to be with me. So, I was willing to take all the backlash from my family to be with him. Plus, to be honest, I was enjoying having some space from my family anyway. And honestly, I don't see how offering to pay for his family to get a hotel to sleep in at night is even causing his family any discomfort. They get a nice clean room with a clean bed to sleep in for free, and everyone gets a little bit of space at the end of the day to wind down. As a bonus, I get to have my alone time, which means I'll be able to recharge and not feel like I'm going insane. I just can't understand why he won't say, okay, I understand this makes you uncomfortable, so I won't ask if we can have overnight guests again, and put my needs first like I put his first. Instead, he continues to ask if we can have people stay here, like he thinks I'm going to change my mind if he asks enough. Some people here are saying it's not the end of the world to suck it up and be uncomfortable for a few days, but I say it's not the end of the world to get to visit with family all day and then by night, to go to a free, nice hotel room to get some sleep. Who wants to spend every waking moment with someone? Obviously, my husband does, but I don't. I could say I'm working extra shifts at work or something. When his sister came to visit this last time, she ended up getting a hotel, but he acted like he was annoyed with me that he couldn't invite her to come stay with us, because he says she probably would have rather stayed with us than stayed at a hotel. I was working night shift that weekend and he claimed, oh, who cares, you're not even going to be here, you'll be at work. And he was acting like he would have let her and her stepson sleep in our bed and he and the kids would sleep in their room. I have personal items in our bedroom and I would not feel comfortable letting people sleep in there. My bedroom, as you said, is probably the one part of the house that is most sacred to me because it's where I go when I need peace. How would that even have worked anyway? I'd get home at 8 a.m. after working all night. His sister and her stepson would probably just be getting out of bed, and then I'm supposed to just hop in my bed right after they've gotten up, on the same sheets and everything. Or I guess the other alternative would be washing and changing the sheets every morning when I get home. I'm guessing he would probably do the cooking. I don't know about cleaning. Now that I work and he stays home with the kids, I have to get onto him just about every day for the house being a wreck. I end up spending usually at least 1 day a week on one of my days off from work, trying to catch up on getting the house clean. He claims he can't clean up messes from the kids all day, but that's what I did when I stayed home with them. And if nothing else, I'd wait till they were asleep and then pick up. But it doesn't bother him to go to bed with a messy house. Says there's no point in cleaning up when they're asleep because they'll just make a mess again tomorrow. His sister has never visited us without bringing a BF with her up until this last visit. I was expecting her to bring her new BF like she usually does, but whatever reason, he didn't come along. But when she was going to visit originally a few weeks ago, we assumed she would bring him along, and my husband was still fine with having them stay with us, despite the fact we've never even met the guy. There was another time years ago when H's stepsister invited herself over to our house, but she ended up not coming for some reason. She was planning to bring her BF with her, and she is having a history of getting with crazy and sometimes abusive guys. I think this was before we had kids, but I was still concerned to be sharing my house with some stranger basically. My husband pretty much blew off my concerns, acting like it was no big deal, which sent the message to me that he's even willing to put a stranger's comfort before my own. The battle, our relationship kind of started off that way. When I moved from my hometown 400 plus miles away to be with him, he had his dad living with him in his house. His dad had gotten divorced and supposedly was paying too much in child support to support himself. He was basically living off his credit cards, racking up more debt because he didn't have any money from what I heard. So, my husband offered to let him live with him rent-free. His dad had been staying there for a couple years when I moved in. Initially, before I moved in, he said he planned to help his dad make other arrangements to live. But then when the time got closer, he changed it and said he would have his dad leave by the time we got married. I was okay with that and I patiently waited. As the wedding approached, I asked him if he'd talked to his dad yet. He would just get upset and said he would talk to him later. Then he started saying maybe his dad would move out on his own without him having to talk to him. It got to the point where we were literally on our honeymoon and he was still acting like maybe his dad would be gone when we got back home, even though he'd never even talked to him about leaving. Why would his dad leave by his own choice when he has a free place to live? It got to where it bothered me more that I felt he was just telling me things to pacify me because he didn't want to act like an adult and talk to his dad, than it bothered me that his dad was still there. He ended up talking to him a week after the wedding and his dad left and went somewhere else to live within a few weeks. Again, if it was my family, I would have stuck to the agreement that I made with my significant other, and I wouldn't have hesitated to tell my dad, hey, I'm getting married. I'm trying to start a life and a family with this person. We're going to have to make other living arrangements. I guess the root of it is I've always felt like he is more concerned with not making his family uncomfortable than worrying about my own comfort. They can literally visit all day long and stay crammed up each other's body all day for all I care. All I'm asking is that at night, they get a hotel, which again, I would be willing to pay for. Or I will get a hotel, and if I can't think of a good excuse, I'll just tell them the truth, that I have to have some space at the end of the day for my own sanity. If my husband is afraid this will offend them, we can always go back to option 1, which is no overnight guests, but we can offer to pay for their hotel. Personally, I would not rely on my family giving me a place to stay when I'm visiting, not that I'd want to stay with family anyway. I'd probably wait until I have a few $100 saved up and then visit family, so I can get a hotel. But in any case, the we don't have money for a hotel excuse is irrelevant anyway because I've already said I have no problem agreeing to pay for their hotel room. My comment, you got to work out a happy median. He gets X number of overnight guests a month. No family staying over isn't reasonable. Family or anyone staying for many days or weeks sucks. Realize you have a problem, and these kinds of things get worse with age. I have a cabin and loan it out to friends. They do annoying things, and as an easily annoyed person, I have to choose my battles if I'm going to bring up an issue. I want my place to bring me happiness and friends, not shoot them away. Don't become a recluse and force that life on the man that loves you. Work together.